welcome to the Green Dream video series. I'm Natalie Kenway, Global Head of ESG Insight at ESG Clarity. Today, I'm speaking to James Penney, CIO at TAM Asset Management. Thank you so much for joining me, James.
Thanks for having me on.
Briefly, can you tell us about TAM and its ESG integration?
Sure. TAM's a DFM, conventional DFM in the UK, based out of the City of London, runs $500 million. We run mainstream model portfolios, and we run ESG dedicated portfolios. So obviously the ESG integration within those is 100%. We do have ESG integration within our mainstream portfolios as well, which is coming on leaps and bounds. But that's the differential between the two.
Fantastic. And which areas are your clients showing an interest in the moment in terms of ESG? Are there any themes? Are they interested in impact investing?
I think it's a really interesting time to be talking about what clients are interested in, especially off the back of COVID. The list has just blown out exponentially. Before COVID, it was very much kind of fossil fuels, animal testing, tobacco, alcohol, very much the kind of the poster children of the anti-ESG movement. Now it's environmental, it's governance, it's social, it's impact. I think it's not a requirement. The conversation has shifted to, where's my pound being put to work? What kind of impact am I seeing? How do I know that the money that I am investing into the market, into companies, is being put to good work? I want to see that. I want that engagement back from my investment, so that I can verify that my money, not only am I investing for myself, but I'm actually doing some good in the world. I think the conversation holistically has moved well past, well, I don't want my money going towards, I don't want my investment going towards animal testing, tobacco, alcohol. And it's got much more mature, it's got much more sophisticated, I think, client requirements. I think they reflect the environment that we're in. And I think it's a lot more sophisticated, and we're moving the portfolios to match that.
That's really pleasing to hear. Those conversations have really moved on. And in terms of products, we have seen so many funds come to the market recently. Are there still any gaps where you're finding it difficult to allocate to certain areas? We've had some people say that there aren't as many regional ESG funds, there's just lots of global, for example.
Yeah, it's a valid observation. I think it's a little bit of chicken and egg. I think sometimes where clients want to see exposure is where exposure appears. Fund managers and fund houses sometimes build products based on demand. They don't build products based on where they think the real opportunity is. That's not true of everyone, but that's kind of a rule of thumb. Emerging markets is an area that I still want to see more exposure in. I still want to see more engagement from. Impact investing is another one which I think is really at the forefront. I think that there's a long way to go. I think that there's a huge amount of asset classes and products to suit those asset classes that have yet to be born. But as the conversation gets more sophisticated, as the client's requirements get more sophisticated, and so they should, you're going to start to see more sophisticated products coming out to tailor to those, providing vehicles for those clients. I love the fact that TAM's at the forefront of driving that conversation. We're very much looking at impact investing. We're very much looking at activist investing. And we're trying to help launch some products in the UK. We're trying to at least raise the conversation with some of these fund houses and asset providers, saying, well, look, you have a US dollar based class. Have you thought about a UK version? Have you thought about a GBP version? We're always looking at the forefront of what's out in the market and saying, well, can you come towards us a little bit so that we can invest in you, because we think what you're doing is fantastic.
And how do you see the overall responsible investment industry evolving from a DFM perspective? What are the challenges and opportunities?
A good question. I could talk about this for days. It's evolving. Again, as I said, it goes back to this kind of the client engagement is becoming more sophisticated, and everything is evolving off the back of that. And I think society, humanity, dare I get more holistic than that, is really coming forwards. And I think people are starting to realize that we actually need to empower investors, we need to empower governments, we need to empower companies to actually start making change, whether that's ESG infrastructure, whether that's environmental, social governance, board diversity, gender diversity. I think it's all being tabled now. I think COVID has been a catalyst for that. COVID's been a catalyst for so many things. And I think that discussion is really being pushed forward. And as I said, more sophisticated products are coming out, but more sophisticated themes and ideas are coming out. I love the angle of something like Engine One, the hedge fund, that are coming out and taking more of an activist approach, which is, they had a big win against ExxonMobil, which is the notion that if an ESG orientated investor can take seats on a board of a company that is not currently ESG, and I think most ESG investors would agree that ExxonMobil, a fossil fuel stock, a fossil fuel company, isn't an ESG stock. And if you put ExxonMobil into a portfolio, a lot of ESG investors would query why, and rightly so. Engine One are trying to change the narrative. They're coming on board with ExxonMobil, taking large seats on their board and actively voting against the future exploration of fossil fuels. And for the first time ever, ExxonMobil came out and started to admit and started to say that they're going to push more and more capital expending on green energy and green energy exploration and discovery than fossil fuels in the future. Now that's huge. I'd argue that if you wanted to show ESG making a difference, it's something like Engine One, going into the most unethical parts of our universe, of our stock market, and turning them around and bringing them into the light. Now that's an argument, that's a powerful movement. And I think that's just in its infancy. And I think that's going to come alongside your conventional ESG investing, your conventional buying of stocks and companies that have an ESG and ethical criteria and owning them because they do that. You've got that side of investing, but you've also got the activists, you've got the front running, the forefront of idea generation. And it's really exciting to see that evolution. I don't think that's going to stop. I think it's going to get more creative. They're going to find more and more ways to give investors exposure to these sorts of things. And investors are going to be able to measure how they're having an impact. Not only are they investing for themselves, for the future, for their future generations, but they're also being able to make a difference as they go along. Just going back to the wider picture, I think that's one part of the whole picture. I think you're going to need to have governments alongside that, pushing change, legislating change from within, as well as the investment market. And I think those two forces combined are going to be a very powerful one. And at the moment, we're starting to see the grassroots of both of those coming together. And I think in the next 10 years, you're going to see ESG moving into a place that we've never seen it move before. And as I've always said, ESG was 5 years ago. ESG was 10 years ago. Just in finding ethical companies to own rather than non-ethical companies seems a bit dated for where we currently are. And I think that trajectory isn't going to slow down. And I'm excited to be riding it.
Me too. Yeah, you've touched on quite a few themes there that we've been talking about, that the engagement versus divestment debate, and also the amount of collaboration that's going on in terms of investment management industry and with the regulators and government too. So we're very excited to see how that will all evolve. Well, thank you, James. I've just got one final question for you. We always end the Green Dream with this one, which is, what is your favourite sustainable drink or snack?
Right, sustainable drink, and I'm not sure this is sustainable. Green tea.
Why green tea?
Green tea, I like its properties. It's got a bit of caffeine, and as a fund manager, you need a bit of caffeine. It's got some good antioxidants. It's I also feel good when I'm drinking it. I feel like I'm doing something for my body. So definitely green tea, and you can't beat a bit of hummus and cucumber or carrot.
Fantastic, great choices. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me on.